quando depois ele falar, ele passa para mim.
Eu vou te entregar esse aqui. Perfeito, pode ficar à vontade, sem problemas, pode ficar à vontade, tá? Pode ficar à vontade, viu?
Boa tarde a todos, a todas. Nós estamos iniciando mais uma palestra, hoje com Cindy Cooper, que vai falar sobre a gente sobre engenharia para um planeta, preparando futuros engenheiros para a sustentabilidade. Esta palestra ela vai ser mediada pela professora Ofelia de Queiroz Fernandes Araújo. A professora Ofelia é graduada em Engenharia Química pela Universidade Federal do Rio de Janeiro, UFRJ, e ela é mestre em PhD em Engenharia Química pela University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, nos Estados Unidos. Ela atuou na Oxiteno, na área de simulação e controle de processos. Em 1993, ingressou na UFRJ, aposentando-se em 2022 como professora titular do Departamento de Engenharia Química. Em 2022, tornou-se Senior Advisor em descarbonização da Deloitte Brasil e professora colaboradora da UFRJ. Atua nos programas de pós-graduação em Engenharia Ambiental e Engenharia de Processos Químicos e Bioquímicos. Sua pesquisa foca em engenharia de processos com gás natural e hidrogênio, transição energética, pelo laboratório H2CIN. Foi coordenadora do EPQB, coordenou o PRH 17, ANP, Engenharia Ambiental da Indústria de Petróleo, Gás Natural e Biocombustíveis, e nos cursos de pós-graduação Lato Sensu, Engenharia de Processo Upstream e Engenharia de Processamento de Gás Natural. É editora-em-chief do periódico Clean Technologies and Environmental Policy, handling editor em Energy Conversion and Efficiency do periódico Energy e é membro dos corpos editoriais dos periódicos Processes, Energy, Water and Environmental System. International do SDEWES, International Center of Sustainable Development of Energy, Water and Environmental System. É membro da comissão gestora do Consórcio Acadêmico Industrial de Engenharia de Sistema em Processos em SiliconNet. Passo a palavra à professora Ofelia para mediar essa palestra.
Boa tarde, Cindy. É uma honra mediar a sua apresentação. Eu vou falar em português, porque você é brasileira e americana, e parece que o seu português, a educação bilíngue foi muito boa. Então, mais qualquer dúvida, por favor, você pode acionar o modo inglês e a gente transforma. Tá? Eu vou ler rapidamente o seu currículo. Cindy Pereira Cooper é Senior Program Officer da The Lemerson Foundation desde 2017 e cofundadora do Engineering for One Planet, EOP, iniciativa nacionalmente reconhecida que visa integrar sustentabilidade na formação de engenheiros. Cindy é internacionalmente reconhecida em educação e engenharia para sustentabilidade. Seu trabalho já impactou mais de 400 docentes, 36 mil estudantes, impressive, através do EOP Framework, um arcabouço pedagógico com 93 resultados de aprendizagem em sustentabilidade, implementado em mais de 80 universidades nos Estados Unidos, Europa e América Latina. Sua trajetória profissional combina empreendedorismo e social e educação transformadora. Foi, anteriormente, diretora executiva do Impact Entrepreneurs Program da Portland State University, onde coliderou a criação do primeiro certificado acadêmico online em inovação social e empreendedorismo dos Estados Unidos. A sua formação acadêmica é em Global MBA, com distinção da Thunderbird School of Global Management, e BA Summa Cum Laude, congratulations, em Psicologia e Espanhol, Claremont McKenna College. Brasileiro-americana, atua em comissão jogadora e revisora em competições de inovação e programas de grants internacionais, incluindo o Yield Giving Open Call 2023, de Mackenzie Scott. Seu trabalho foi destacado com Fast Company, Stanford Social Innovation Review e NPR. Cindy, seja muito bem-vinda. Você tem 45 minutos para nos homenagear com as suas palavras.
Muito obrigada, que honra. E muito obrigada a todos por fazerem possível que eu estivesse aqui com vocês online e selecionar a minha palestra hoje para compartilhar com vocês. Para mim, falar português flying and you hear bees buzzing, you feel a breeze on a summer night, you smell the rain on the sidewalk. You'd want to move to Earth because Earth is paradise. So I'm happy I was born on Earth, where I lead this program called Engineering for One Planet, but I'm not an engineer. And until a few years ago, I never imagined that I'd be working on sustainability and engineering education. So how did this happen? This is me when I was 4 and living in Salvador, in Bahia. And if you grew up in Salvador and by the sea, of course you would want to protect the earth. You would be passionate about it, and that's true of me. And I was also very entrepreneurial even as a little kid. And I remember when I lived in Sao Paulo, when I was 9, I started a sports club and with my friends, and I funded it by selling popsicles that we made at home in the little plastic bags. So I was really interested in entrepreneurship and capitalism, but I was also very sensitive. I was always volunteering and trying to save animals, and I wanted to do good in the world. But I was also super into like business. But those worlds to me seemed entirely separate. I didn't think that you could have both in life. So fast forward when I went to college, that's my lab rat, my little rat that I got to do some work with. I majored in psychology and Spanish, and after college, I thought I would become a psychiatrist. I thought as a psychiatrist, I could do good in the world. But I didn't go back to school right away. So a couple of years after college, I moved back home to Beaverton, Oregon, which is near Portland, Oregon. I don't know if the news is there in Brazil about Portland, but if you've heard anything that we are needing to have national troops in Portland, we're fine. We do not. There's no war in Portland. That is something that is happening in our news here in the U.S., but it is not an issue. Portland is a beautiful place. So I went back home and I wanted to get a job at my dream company at that time, and that was Nike. And I did. I got a job, and my job was to work with Nike's distributors in Brazil and in 25 other Latin American countries on marketing strategy. So this is me in 1997 in Ecuador. I loved this job. It was so fun. I got to travel all over, including back to Brazil. I got to see famous athletes playing basketball at Nike's gym. I got to say hi to Tiger Woods when he was on his way back to a meeting from the bathroom down the hall. And it seemed like everybody liked Nike, except maybe Adidas and Reebok. And I was really proud to work there. But then one day Nike was in the news, and the news was bad. It was about terrible labor conditions in some of the factories that Nike contracted with abroad to make shoes and clothes. And with that news, which was also news to me, I went from being proud of my job to feeling ashamed. I didn't think about, the role that business could play that could be negative before then. And at that time, I had a wonderful boss at Nike. Her name was Faye. And the news that came out about Nike prompted her to ask me what I thought Nike's responsibility was, broader responsibility to people, to society. And I had been taught that the role of business in society is to make money, to make profits. But Faye told me about something called social entrepreneurism, empreendedorismo social, that was new. This was in 1997, 1998. And it was all about using business and entrepreneurship to change the world, to make social problems better, to make environmental problems better. So instead of going back to school to be a psychiatrist, I decided to go back to get an MBA to do social entrepreneurship. It seemed like the perfect fit, mixing entrepreneurship with wanting to do good in the world. So that still doesn't explain engineering. In grad school, I met Clay Cooper, who my name now is Cindy Cooper. So we did get married eventually, but we started dating in graduate school in 1999, and he had an idea for social entrepreneurship organization, which was to have teachers in Guatemala teach Spanish online through video conferencing. And of course, now video conferencing is everywhere and we are so used to it. But in 1999, it did not exist. It was not even, we couldn't even do like voice conferencing at that time. Skype, which you might remember from back in the day, that didn't even exist. But he knew it was coming, and he had been taking Spanish in Guatemala and really thought that if the teachers there could teach online, they could have a much better future, make a much better living. They could earn more money, teach year round. And so at that time I thought, well, this won't work. I can't imagine it. But luckily, Clay was visionary and he kept working on the idea. And in 2004, we quit our jobs to launch Speak Shop, which was the world's first fair trade online platform for learning Spanish through video conferencing. We called it Speak Shop because we thought we would have a lot of languages, but we ended up only having, we had Portuguese for a little bit, but it was hard to arrange the Portuguese tutoring, so we focused on Spanish. We started with 5 tutors in Guatemala. They were all women. They'd never used video conferencing. And I remember the first time that they saw themselves on a computer on video, and there was a lot of giggling and fixing the hair. But once the business got going, they got very serious and they tripled their hourly pay. They made a lot more money because they were able to teach year round. And they became pioneers in teaching online, and they looked good doing it. From there, I became an accidental academic. I amazingly ran into Faye. Like, I saw Faye, my old boss, at an event. She wasn't expected to be there. She was a last minute replacement for a speaker. And she and I started to talk about what had been going on in Speak Shop. And she invited me to teach with her at Portland State University. And it's not something I had planned to do, but it sounded really great. And I decided to do it. I could teach social entrepreneurship. And then that got the attention of the dean of the business school. And the dean then invited me to create a bigger program to teach, but also create programs for social entrepreneurship. And there was no description, no job description, but there was also no budget. And I thought, well, this sounds interesting. I'll give it a try. And decided that, we would create some things. And one of the first things we created was an incubator to help start new social ventures, because it was something that I wished I had had when I was trying to start Speak Shop with Clay. So a few years later, our programs became award-winning. We were profiled in magazines like Fast Company, and we got the attention of funders, foundations like the Lemelson Foundation, where I work now. And they were one of our biggest funders. So then a few years after that, I spent 7 years at the university, but I wanted to do something different. And in 2017, I got hired at the Lemelson Foundation, where I am today. This is our team. We're small. The foundation is a philanthropic organization. We give away grants. It was started by Jerry Lemelson and his wife, Dolly, in 1992. Jerry Lemelson was one of the most prolific independent inventors of the last century. He had over 600 patents, an amazing genius. And since he launched the foundation, he did pass away in the 90s, but his family has continued the work of the foundation. And we've given away over $300 million over the past 30 years. So this is a really cool job, because instead of trying to make money, I get to give money away to try to do good in the world. And our return on investment is impact. We're just trying to make a difference and leave the world a better place. And today I lead engineering for One Planet at the foundation. The goal of EOP is to transform engineering education so that all engineers are able to protect and improve our planet and our lives. And in my story, you could see that there was a lot of change. And so I was lucky to get to do many different things that I never expected to do. And engineering for One Planet is one of them. I'm not an engineer. I didn't study engineering, but I feel very, very lucky that I get to do this work, because I think engineering is a very powerful force for good. And there's so much potential for engineering to make our world more sustainable. But before we launched Engineering for One Planet, we talked to hundreds of people about why wasn't sustainability everywhere in engineering, and what could be done. So Engineering for One Planet isn't my idea. Imagine hundreds of people creating Engineering for One Planet with us at the Lemelson Foundation, because that's the reality. We worked with hundreds of people, educators, practicing engineers, experts in sustainability, to create this initiative. So that is that type of collective intelligence and collaboration that underpins Engineering for One Planet. And they're the ones who told us, well, what to do and how to do it. So why prioritize sustainability? I think we all understand the big problems that we're living in, the challenges of our time. Climate is a huge one. It's not the only one. Plastics are killing not just animals, but now there are plastics in our bodies. There's pollution in the air, in the water, in the ground, toxic materials, loss of plants and animals all over the world, including, of course, sadly, in Brazil. And so these things are shortening our lives, and for some populations much more quickly and more significantly than other populations. Environmental issues are social issues. And companies are realizing that this is a big problem. A lot of companies have regulations that mandate that they change how they operate, but also they see that they won't be able to operate if they don't change their relationship to the planet and to society. So it's leading to a growing green skills gap. We need more people, more talent who know about sustainability, and that is very true in engineering as well. And our youth want this. They are absolutely terrified about the world that they're living in, and they want to work in places that are making a difference. They want to go to schools that are teaching them how to make a difference. Now, why engineering specifically? And I think I don't have to tell you all, because you know that engineering has massive scope, scale, reach. And so we need all engineers to know about sustainability. But that's hard to do. Not all engineering disciplines have very much sustainability education in them. This is particularly true in the United States. I honestly don't know as much about the situation in Brazil, but I imagine that there's room for improvement everywhere. And we know engineers can not only solve big problems and contribute to solutions to climate, environmental, social needs, medical needs, but every engineering activity could be more sustainable. Doesn't matter what kind of engineering you're doing, there can be less energy use, less of a use of carbon-based fuels, better material selection, less toxic materials, and so on. And so what is Engineering for One Planet? So what are we doing? So I gave you an introduction of, the why, but what is it? So hopefully I'll get this video to play for you now.
Sustainability is a concept for a different model of living on the planet.
How do we create a material reality that allows us not just to enjoy the present, but also to leave something for future generations to come?
Every decision that we make ultimately has this ripple effect.
We have to change the way that we think about the world. We have to change the way that we design things in the world.
Designers and engineers make the things that we use to live life. And so I think it's about embedding the idea of sustainability in engineering so that it's ultimately synonymous.
Students want to learn more about sustainability. They want to understand how we can possibly address climate change.
Engineering for One Planet has a vision that sustainability will be a core tenet of the profession. So we're working to transform engineering education to equip all students with skill sets and mindsets to ensure that engineers are able to protect and improve our planet and our lives.
I think sustainability in general is the issue of our lifetime, and STEM graduates are going to be the ones that are really going to have to do the heavy lifting.
I prepare engineers for the professional world, and it is important that they are ready for the challenges.
So that sustainability becomes a way of thinking for them. It becomes like a habit for them in the way they approach all the innovation, development, coding.
Engineering for One Planet is transformative because really embeds the principles of sustainability across all engineering disciplines, helps create engineers that know how to use those principles in creating the products and businesses of today and tomorrow.
EOP is bringing to the table everyone really that has a voice and an interest. So students are key, administrators, professors, but it's also very key to have industry there to showcase that there is a workforce need for this as well.
I think increasingly we're seeing industry having a demand for engineers who are specifically working in the area of sustainability. But we also recognize that we need everybody thinking about those kinds of design decisions with a sustainability mindset.
The EOP framework aligns really nicely with the concept of sustainable issues in our criteria, the items that students ought to be exposed to when they're undergraduate programs.
The EOP framework gives institutions, individual faculty members, a roadmap to start with to see pervasive transformation of the engineering curriculum.
Designing, engineering something is an innately hopeful and optimistic endeavor.
There is true power in enough people actually coming to the table with these are the tangible ways that we can change it to make this better.
Engineering for One Planet isn't just about changing courses, it's about changing the course of engineering.
I believe that in the future, what we call sustainable engineering is just going to be good engineering.
Sustainable.
So that is a little bit about engineering for One Planet. Hopefully it all worked technologically. I know that that can be tricky sometimes over distance, but you know, EOP is really about shifting the mindset to, you know, from a, you know, should we make this to you know, how can we make this better? Not just making it work, but should it even exist? Is this a good thing in the world? How do we make it last? How do we make it inclusive and equitable? How do we make it healthy? And shifting that mindset requires different skill sets to be taught. So before we launched EOP, we researched why sustainability wasn't already being taught everywhere in engineering education. And these were some of the main reasons. There was too much to teach already. And what we've been doing is trying to create solutions for these challenges. So a solution is creating teaching tools to help educators figure out how to quickly bring sustainability into classes they already teach. Faculty don't know how to teach sustainability because they weren't taught. So again, there are tools and teaching resources that can help with that, as well as training and support from other faculty or mentors. And then faculty need incentives to spend time on creating change. So even if all of these things are easier to do, sometimes it helps to have a little bit of grant money, support, or awards and recognition so that people have time and have approval to work on change. And so this is the three interrelated approaches. These are the three interrelated approaches of EOP. Teaching tools, grants and recognition and training, and collaboration so that people can learn together and create change together. And I'll share a little bit more about them. The teaching tools are all free and they're available on the website, engineeringforoneplanet.org. You can download them without even giving your email address, and you can use them however you want. You don't need permission to make changes, just use them. These are the 9 topics that are in the Engineering for One Planet framework. So this is a set of learning outcomes related to these 9 topics that show educators how to teach different sustainability topics and leadership topics. So leadership topics are things like communication, teamwork, critical thinking, and then of course, sustainability topics like systems thinking, environmental literacy, responsible business and economy, social responsibility, environmental impact assessment, material selection, design. So there are 93 different learning outcomes to choose from in these 9 topic areas in this framework. you can get to it through this QR code. And, you know, it's, I'm going to share an example. You know, here's an example from material selection. So you can see there are core learning outcomes and advanced. Core learning outcomes are the ones that are considered important for every student to learn. Advanced, of course, is if they're graduate students or you want to teach an even greater level of depth about a topic. So this gives you an idea of what the framework looks like. Every topic area has core and advanced learning outcomes listed. And now we also have teaching guides that are complementary to the EOP framework. So these guides take the learning outcomes in the framework and explain how to teach them. They give you links to videos or things to read. These are in English. And you know, these are available for free, and all of the teaching links are to things that are available for free. This is an example of one of the teaching guides. It's the Quick Start Activity Guide. It has an example of how to teach one core learning outcome from each of the 9 topic areas. So here's an example for material selection, core learning outcome 6. So it shows videos, you know, has links to those videos, how long it takes, and how to teach certain activities. These are other guides, and each one is a little bit different. I also want to share this book. This is a book from one of the collaborators in EOP. He is a faculty member at TU Delft in the Netherlands, and he recently launched this book, and it's a wonderful introduction to sustainable design. So another part of EOP is giving grants, recognition, and supporting training. These are the schools that have received grants so far. And the grants are given in the US right now. That is a mandate that we have right now, is that the grants go to United States universities. But some of them collaborate with schools in other places and other countries. And then training. This is a wonderful training that we have supported. The Lemelson Foundation has given grants to Villanova University, and that you can do. So they will have an online training in January. It's $350, and you join through Zoom, and you learn how to teach different sustainability topics. You learn more about the Engineering for One Planet tools. They also have the training in person at their beautiful campus in Pennsylvania in June, which is also $400. So that includes meals and materials. They use our grant to subsidize the costs. These are other opportunities that we partner on. The ABET Award. ABET is the accreditation body. It's a global accreditation body. I think some programs in Brazil are ABET accredited. We have a prize that you can apply for if your school is ABET accredited, and it's a $10,000 prize. Our mini grants program is something that is for US universities, but again, they can partner with other universities and work collaboratively. And we have a grant through the National Science Foundation, and we have been giving $1 million a year, and the National Science Foundation has been matching $1 million a year for big grants that they offer through this program. Collaboration is another thing that we support, because there's no way that this kind of big change can happen with just one funder or one sector. So it brings together academia and engineering and nonprofit and philanthropy, people from all of those sectors, to come up with ideas for projects for change. It includes students, it includes faculty, and they've been doing amazing work on different projects. So where EOP is today, so I've mentioned a few of these things. We've had 80 grantees and 400 faculty just in the grantees that we have supported who have been using the EOP framework and teaching tools to create or modify over 600 courses. And those courses have impacted about 40,000 students. We know that people are using EOP's tools all over the world. They download them for free and use them even without grants. And I'll go to conferences in other countries and I'll see somebody say, oh, I'm doing a presentation on how I used Engineering for One Planet in my courses, and I've never met them before and they're not a grantee. So that means a lot to us. So other ways to engage, I mentioned some of these. I mentioned the Villanova training. If you're interested in that, take a photo of the slide. You can contact Bridget to get more information. There is an event coming up through the United Nations Higher Education Sustainability Initiative. This link gets you to their form for signing up to say you're interested. And that event will be October 14th. It's just the first event. There will be other events. There is support for green chemistry. If you don't know, beyondbenign.org. They also have a community and lots of tools and resources. Engineers Without Borders in the United Kingdom has a lot of amazing resources for bringing sustainability into courses and social responsibility. And then there's this sustainability toolkit that is also out of the United Kingdom. So we've collaborated on all of these things and others, but there's a lot out there. And if you want to collaborate with us on EOP, let me know. Villanova actually got a grant from one of their alumni to translate the EOP framework to Spanish. I don't think anyone has translated it to Portuguese, but that would be really cool. So these are just a couple of examples. I mentioned we have a mini grant program, and these are 2 posters from that mini grant program where the grantee got $8,000 and mentoring support to create curricular change. And these are just examples of how they did it. This first one is from San Jose State University in California. They introduced new sustainability learning outcomes into the final capstone course. I know you can't read this, but if you use this link, you should be able to see this poster. You can email me. I will put my email address in the end if you have trouble. But just take a photo of this link if you want and navigate to that website. This one was from Tennessee Tech University, who also used the $8,000, but in a little bit different way. They added sustainability learning into design in 4 different chemical engineering courses. So again, you can take a photo of that URL if you want to check it out. So thank you. That's my presentation. You can connect with me. This is my LinkedIn, and then the Engineering for One Planet website. And I thought my email was on here, but it's not. So my email address is cindyc@lemelson.org. And I will turn it over to you for questions.
Thank you, Cindy. I will start with 2 questions from my part and then ask the public if they have more. My first one is, I will make it in Portuguese, okay? Motores sociais na degradação ambiental. Sua apresentação cita mudanças climáticas como o desafio do século e a descarbonização como algo crítico. No entanto, eu gostaria de explorar o caráter multidisciplinar de sustentabilidade, particularmente a dimensão social, relevante para países em desenvolvimento como o Brasil. Então, quando a gente fala em descarbonizar, a gente está introduzindo no processo produtivo custos com tecnologias mais caras para reduzir a emissão de CO2. E, na ponta, quem paga é uma população pobre. Então, a pergunta é, a degradação ambiental está profundamente entrelaçada com condições sociais. Pobreza, desigualdade e acesso limitado à educação. Quando as pessoas carecem de necessidades básicas, práticas sustentáveis tornam-se um luxo. Estes não são problemas que podem ser resolvidos via estratégia de descarbonização e que podem ser impactados por decisões de engenharia. Então, a minha pergunta é como a EOP Framework aborda essa ligação fundamental entre justiça social e sustentabilidade ambiental. Como preparamos engenheiros para entender que resolver problemas ambientais requer simultaneamente quantificar consequências sociais dos seus projetos e abordar a pobreza, educação, saúde e equidade social?
That's a beautiful question. Like I said earlier, social, you cannot, they're interrelated. Social problems, environmental problems are social problems. And you're right that we need to teach both. And that's why in the Engineering for One Planet framework, we have social responsibility, but also business, responsible business. So themes like circular economy, things like how to design with human-centered design so that you are creating things with the populations, not just for them. So it's very important to teach in a way that students understand that you can't just create an engineering solution in isolation of the people that need it. And even solutions that aren't for the people who might be most negatively affected by climate change and environmental problems. Those solutions to infrastructure needs, bridges, roads, aerospace needs, all of those things affect some populations more negatively than others. And you have to take that into consideration, even if the products may not be directly about one population or another. Every engineering activity affects everyone. The toxic materials, and that's covered in the framework, thinking about what goes into making something, because the extraction process can be damaging. People are involved in getting raw materials that are sometimes toxic to make batteries, for example. You need to think about that. What are the consequences, and make people aware so that the best choices can be made. How the product is made in the factory. What are the conditions of that factory? What is the exposure to the materials in the factory? How do you reduce the use of energy? How do you use clean energy sources in producing your products? All of that will make a difference to society as a whole. Distribution of those products, thinking about every step of distribution, ways to reduce the use of energy, ways to reduce pollution, and the end of life of those products. Can they be recycled in a safe way? Can they be reused in a safe way? Instead of selling a product, can you sell a subscription so that you're creating a thing that lasts, but the revenue source comes from something digital? Just thinking about things in different creative ways. All of those types of topics are covered in the 93 learning outcomes in the framework. So it is very broad in the way that it treats sustainability. And it's up to the educators to then find ways to bring that into their classes that make the most sense. And what we find is that pretty much any topic could go into any type of course. If the right examples are used, you can replace what you already teach with just a different example, and it will help students start to understand these broader considerations. Some topics are much more specific, like how to measure life cycle of a product. And they might learn, the mathematical calculation, and there's a whole process to doing LCA analysis. So that can be a very technical experience. And so some faculty prefer to teach something like that. One thing that's important, I think, is looking at an institution, an engineering program, and all of the opportunities in different classes to teach different topics so that students get exposed to all of the things that you're talking about in the many years that they spend at school.
Thank you for your answer. I have a second one. Cindy, eu gostaria de abordar um desafio econômico estrutural que a educação e engenharia brasileira enfrenta. A economia do Brasil é fundamentalmente baseada nos setores de exploração e produção de petróleo, refino, petroquímica, mineração e agronegócio. Acho que todos os vilões que você imagina. Estas são indústrias de produção intensivas em capital que permanecerão economicamente vitais por décadas, empregando a maioria dos nossos engenheiros. Elas atuam próximas a biomas sagrados, como a Amazônia, o Cerrado, a Mata Atlântica, e financiam grande parte da pesquisa universitária brasileira. Isso cria um paradoxo. Ao contrário de software ou serviços digitais, onde o empreendedorismo pode começar em uma garagem, a inovação sustentável nesses setores requer capital enorme, navega regulações complexas e confronta cadeias de suprimento arraigadas. Ainda assim, estes são precisamente os setores onde a transformação de sustentabilidade é mais urgente. Minha pergunta tem duas partes. Primeiro, quais caminhos podemos oferecer a estudantes de engenharia que querem criar empreendimentos genuinamente sustentáveis em materiais de base biológica, química, verde ou manufatura circular dentro desses setores que são de commodities? Segundo, e talvez mais realisticamente, como preparamos engenheiros para serem agentes efetivos de mudanças dentro de grandes empresas estabelecidas nestes setores de commodities, onde suas decisões individuais podem afetar milhões de toneladas de emissões e outros impactos ambientais e sociais, com resistência organizacional significativa?
Eu gostaria de ter todas as respostas do mundo e poder dizer exatamente o que fazer. Essas são as questões do nosso... São os desafios maiores que temos. I believe that we need to teach students about exactly what you said, the opportunities to create new, renewable, biologically safe, sources of energy, and really any engineering, any engineering solution that a student could create, whether it's directly to address climate or something else, maybe a medical device, that the students are bringing sustainability considerations to their work. And the Lemelson Foundation supports student invention. And so we have programs, again, primarily in the United States, but I know there are programs in Brazil that others support, to teach students to create inventions using sustainable design, using circular business principles, providing students with the education, but also support to start their companies, also access to investors who also want these kinds of businesses to start and be successful. So that's something that we also invest in, give grants for. We, in our climate action initiative, so the Lemelson Foundation has other initiatives. Engineering for One Planet is one. We have a climate action initiative that focuses on how to address climate change through mitigation, through decarbonization, and some adaptation as well. And in that initiative, we have grants in Brazil that have to do with supporting startups, for the reasons that you're talking about. We also have grants that are about the bigger scale change that you're talking about. How to work with big industries to reduce their negative impact. I think that when it comes to fossil fuels and petroleum, regulation is needed. You know, there's only so much you can do to clean fossil fuels. So, you know, some incentives at a political level are needed to slow down the use of those fuels or stop them. That's not happening. And to create incentives to continue to improve and evolve clean energy sources, renewable energy. And, you know, the financial incentives are becoming less and less necessary in clean energy because the costs have come down. For example, solar is now inexpensive compared to other infrastructure and expense required for traditional fuels, wind energy, other sources of energy. I think regulation is also needed to protect the environments that you're talking about, you know, and again, to protect people in those environments. In our climate action initiative, we've also given grants to organizations that are protecting native South American, native Brazilian populations, helping them to protect their environments and, you know, ensure that illegal use of their land is prevented. And we need more people doing this. We do work with a lot of other foundations, other funders that are giving millions and millions of dollars to these big structural change issues that you point out. And I think that together, you know, we need the people, the talent, the engineers, the minds and the hearts who can do engineering differently. And then we need these bigger incentives and support mechanisms that create better pathways so that the engineering activities can meet in the middle and have the best results possible.
Thanks, Cindy.
Muito obrigado pela sua palestra. Tá? Eu vou falar em português, tá, Cindy?
Ok.
Eu ouvi aqui hoje, agora mesmo, falar em descarbonização, né? Mas o termo certo não seria desfossilização, né? Porque a gente tem essa meta, eu não sei se ela existe ou não, né? Mas a meta de atingir net zero em 2050. Não sei se isso vai ser possível ou não, né? Porque a gente não vê isso muito nos discursos das pessoas, né? Não, precisa ser sustentável, tal, né? Mas então a minha outra pergunta é assim: eu vi um professor Vilar, nem sei se ele está aqui, falando que eles conseguiram resolver uma questão importante ambiental na Europa, ou criar um caminho para resolver, criando regulação, leis. Então, as empresas não fazem por caridade, elas têm que fazer para cumprir a lei, né? Então, o que é que vem primeiro? O convencimento dos alunos, dos futuros profissionais, ou as leis, né, que vão obrigar eles a cumprirem isso, né? E, por fim, o que fazer com os negacionistas, né, climáticos? Aqueles que negam que essas coisas existem, né? Você falou que mandaram tropas aí para a sua cidade, né? Então, isso é meio complicado.
Sim.
Muito obrigado.
Sim, eu acho que exatamente precisamos de regulações. E, graças a Deus, a Europa ainda está regulando isso. E parece que cada mês tem uma nova regulação. Uma das que eu vi hoje é que firmas que estão operando na Europa, e desculpe se eu falo errado as palavras, me desculpe, talvez vai dar para entender, mas as firmas na Europa, mesmo que não são firmas da Europa, então se você é uma firma internacional que está operando na Europa, você tem que cumprir a regulação. E tem uma nova que vai ser, se você diz que você está fazendo alguma coisa que é verde, sustentável, e você está marketing isso, você vai ter que ter alguém para provar isso. Vai ter que ter uma entidade objetiva para avaliar que você realmente está cumprindo isso. Isso é um exemplo. E tem muitos outros, mas é exatamente isso. Precisamos de regulações. E, infelizmente, em alguns países, no momento atual, a direção está indo errada, ao contrário. E aqui nos Estados Unidos, nós tínhamos um ano atrás, ou talvez um ano e meio atrás, uma ideia muito diferente das possibilidades, porque o governo estava apoiando esse tipo de iniciativa, né? Esse tipo de mudança no mundo, transformação. E tinha muitos incentivos para clean energy, wind, solar e tudo isso que ajudaria com todas as coisas que você está falando, fossilização, decarbonization, defossilization. Esse assunto é muito, muito difícil e não pode ser só os atuantes de engenharia que podem resolver, mas com conhecimento, com habilidades, podemos fazer muito mais do que se não temos esses conhecimentos e habilidades. Então, eu acho que nós temos que agir no que temos o controle, né? Não podemos controlar tudo, mas tem coisas que todos nós podemos fazer, e engenheiros, especialmente, na verdade, tem tanto poder nas escolhas. E a outra coisa que eu acho que está ajudando é que, além de... Estou tentando lembrar como você disse que não é caridade, né? Que as empresas não estão fazendo de caridade, mas porque tem que fazer. E tem incentivos econômicos que estão melhorando, porque coisas estão ficando mais baratas, que são green ou sustentáveis. Então, e firmas conseguem fazer mais dinheiro, podem poupar dinheiro, save money. E então esse lado de incentivos econômicos está melhorando e tem muita informação, muitos dados, muitos estudos que mostram que firmas podem conseguir melhoramentos econômicos com essas escolhas. Então, isso tem que ser ensinado também, quais escolhas são boas para o planeta, para a nossa saúde e também para o bottom line em inglês, para o profit, né, da companhia, da firma.
Cindy, temos mais uma pergunta aqui.
Hello, Cindy. It was a pleasure to attend your presentation. I'm sorry if I kind of delay my question. I'm rewiring my brain to English now, but it is very simple, and I wanted to know how to keep in touch with you guys to translate the open source material. It is no doubt that it will make it easy to use this knowledge at our institutions. I'm not really sure if my institution have any kind of...
For me to do that, I guess I would have to change my presentation really quickly. Let me see if I can do it. I'll put it on this last page. And you can see it.
Cindy, we'll try to give your email to... What's your name? Rodrigo. Cindy.
So I added it there. Thank you. And yeah, which school are you with?
I study in the Universidade Federal da Paraíba.
Paraíba, okay. Yeah, all of our grantees are U.S., but they might want to partner with school, your school or other schools in Brazil, and that can be a way to, create change more quickly.
Okay, thanks again. It was a pleasure to attend your presentation.
Thank you. It's an amazing opportunity. I wish I could be with you all. I miss Brazil and love Brazil. Tenho muita saudade.
Cindy, em nome da organização do Enbeq, e de todos os participantes. Obrigada por compartilhar a sua expertise e por inspirar essa jornada de transformação. América Norte e Sul, Europa também. Então, o site da revista está ali, o Journal 10098. Está desligado. Então, o foco da revista é abordar exatamente a análise de sustentabilidade, políticas. A perna de política da revista está com poucas submissões, muitas da China, e são intervenções fortes de governo, então não dá para extrapolar para o resto do mundo. Então, a gente gostaria de contribuições que usasse a base de engenharia para propor políticas públicas e que a sustentabilidade não seja um exemplo de métodos. Ela, de fato, tem de estar nos métodos. Esse é o ponto-chave para enquadramento de escopo. Então, para aqueles que tiveram a sua submissão rejeitada nos journals originais da sua área, por favor, mudem o escopo antes de submeter, mas submetam. Então, o que a gente procura é uma aplicação geral que sirva para vários países, não apenas para o Brasil. Então, não coloca Brasil no título, Brasil é exemplo, os seus trabalhos. Né? Isso também é uma prática que a gente tem combatido, e tem autor que coloca o DOI, listam 10 e rejeitam, pedem uma nova versão para obrigar que estejam lá. Então, isso a gente tem atacado e tenta identificar. E a capacidade de escrever e colocar as ideias, normalmente o autor esquece a etapa final, que já está cansado, o título, o abstract e o link disso na conclusão. Então, por favor, escrevam para que não seja rejeitado, porque é o que o desktop vai pegar, o desk rejection pega mais, é título, o abstract e uma conclusão que não bate com o que se propõe a fazer. Tá? Então, desculpa prolongar a atividade, mas submeto.
Aproveito para que a gente comece agora os grupos.
Boa tarde a todos.
Boa tarde a todos. Meu nome é Ericles Vale Nascimento. Eu sou aluno do doutorado do Programa de Pós-Graduação em Engenharia Química da Faculdade